Good afternoon. This is the JP Dinnell podcast, episode 31. I am JP Dinnell, and as always, I have Lucas with me. Good evening. My name is JP Dinnell. Your teammate, Aidan Trimble, is my son. I was in the U.S. Navy for almost 12 years. And during that time in the Navy, I was a Navy SEAL for about 10 of those 12 years. And in that time of serving our country, I was able to do a lot of incredible things. I was a sniper, I was a machine gunner, and I was a point man. If any of you are familiar with Chris Kyle, Chris was the lead sniper and point man for Charlie Platoon, and I was Chris Kyle's opposite in Delta Platoon. If you have read the book American Sniper or watched the movie, if you remember where they are teasing him about the young sniper catching up to him, that was me when I was 23 years old. I trained Jiu-Jitsu. I used to fight amateur MMA, and more importantly, I wrestled growing up before going to war. I currently work for Jocko Willink and Leif Babin at Echelon Front as our chief training officer, and I was the first instructor they brought on board to help grow the company, and it is an absolute honor to be able to do what I do every single day. The training I went through to become a Navy SEAL is called BUDS, and that stands for Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. A lot of people say that it is the hardest military training in the world because we have such a high rate of failure. The truth is, I've worked with a bunch of different special forces groups, every branch of the military, and every single one of their special forces units. All of those units are absolutely incredible, and they all have very hard selection courses. I think the differentiating factor and the major thing that separates our training is the cold water of Southern California. I started with Class 242, and I was able to graduate with Class 242. When I started training, there was about 222 guys on day one, and when I graduated with Class 242, I was one of 28 of the original men to start with that class. I was 19 years old when I went through that training and checked in the SEAL teams. My everyday mindset going through that training was, I get to do this. Every single day I would wake up and remind myself of what I get to do. And I have carried that mindset into everything that I get to do still to this day. When I went through BUDS and SQT, which is the Advanced SEAL Qualification training that we'd go through, before I checked in the SEAL teams, we were already at war. I went into boot camp September 5th, 2001, and 6 days later, 9/11 happened, and my world, or what I thought the world was going to look like, had drastically changed. One of the things that I was reminded of going through training to become a Navy SEAL was this saying, fatigue makes cowards of us all. When you have been exhausted, tired, physically and emotionally worn out, have any of you in this room ever made a really good life decision? This is when most people quit. This is when most people give up on themselves and they give up on their dreams. And this is something that I saw every single day going through SEAL training. Grown men quitting after being in the cold water for only a few minutes because they decided that it wasn't worth it. The answer whenever I ask that question is always no. I have not met one person who has made a really good life decision when they were tired and exhausted. So that is a lesson I applied to my whole life. It is to take control of my mindset no matter what is happening. Because it is always the one thing that I can control. I was actually not taught this lesson when I was in training to become a Navy SEAL. I was just reminded of that lesson. This lesson was taught to me when I was a young boy in sports, when I was training and participating in the greatest sport known to man, wrestling. At a young age, my parents got myself and my siblings into wrestling because they wanted us to be physically and mentally tough. They wanted us to understand what hard work looks like and what hard work feels like. They wanted us to understand what winning looks like and what defeat also looks like. In life, you are going to win. You are going to lose. How we conduct ourselves in times of victory and defeat actually defines who we are as humans. Wrestling, as you all know, will teach you that firsthand. Wrestling also teaches us how to dig deep and find a way to win. Wrestling teaches us how to believe in ourselves. Without belief, nothing is possible. But with belief alone, nothing is possible. We have to go out there and do the work every single day. We have to take action. Wrestling taught me and showed me that desire and capabilities are two different things. You can have all the desires in the world, but if you do not put in the hard work that wrestling requires, then you will always lack the true capabilities of being a champion. Being a champion on the mats is cool. Having your hand raised in victory is cool. But ultimately, long term, none of that actually matters in life. It is how you conduct yourself in life that matters. And I want you to ask yourself, are you being a true champion in life? Are you a good teammate? Are you a good student? Are you a good son or daughter? Are you being a good friend? Not just a good teammate or a good friend to the cool kids, but what about everybody on your team? I ask this because one important thing the military taught me is one team, one fight. When we deployed to war, it was a one team, one fight mentality. We had to work together in order to achieve victory. And we won because of relationships. Wrestling prepared me for war. I have 3 combat deployments under my belt. I've been to Iraq twice and Afghanistan once, which is actually nothing compared to a lot of my buddies and former teammates. But what I learned as a young boy in wrestling, it prepared me for war. And here's the deal. Every single one of you is at war right now. You are at war with complacency. And as you guys all get ready to graduate, you are going to be at war in life. Life is not fair. It will never be fair. You have to go out there and fight for what you want. When I wrestled, I was always nervous. I was nervous to let my parents down, to let my family down, to let my teammates down, and to let my coaches down. But I was never afraid. I was never full of fear. Fear is from the devil himself. And I had to go to war against fear as a young boy when I would wrestle. And I carried that same fight against fear when I was a Navy SEAL. When we were in war and hunting the enemy, I was never afraid. I was never fearful of the enemy that we were up against. However, I respected what my enemy was capable of, but I was never afraid of them. You should always respect the competition, but you should never fear them. I will never fear another man, nor should you. This is what wrestling teaches us. This is also what wrestling taught me. Humility. Humility is one of the top qualities of a leader, and it is one of the top qualities of a great human. There is one thing I know we all can agree upon in this room. The world and our nation needs leadership more than ever right now. We need good, humble leaders, and it starts with us. It starts with us in this room. I have had my hand raised in victory many times in life. I have also had my hand not raised many times in life because I experienced defeat. I have experienced victory, and I have also equally experienced defeat in life. There are winners and losers in life, just like in wrestling. Now, whether we learn from those victories or those losses is 100% up to us. It is 100% up to you. That is life. What you have learned in wrestling will carry over into everything you do in life, if you choose to be intentional with your life and applying these lessons and mindsets. And if you do that, you will win. The choice is 100% yours. Just like in practice, the choice was always yours in regard to how hard you actually worked. Your coaches could push you, your teammates could push you, your parents could push you, but ultimately the choice was always yours. The choice to do the work will always come from you. And that same mindset applies over to how you competed, how you're performing at school, and how you're conducting yourself at home and in life. This mindset will also carry over to all the aspects of your life moving forward. In the SEAL teams, I learned that the small details matter, just like in wrestling. The small details always mattered. And as a sniper, I can promise you the small details mattered as well. Wrestlers do not cheat. Wrestlers do not cut corners. Wrestlers do not lie. Wrestlers do not coast throughout the day, throughout practice, or throughout their life. Wrestlers do not quit. Wrestlers do not take the easy way out. Wrestlers always find a way to win. And wrestlers always fight. You can make excuses or you can make things happen. You cannot do both. The choice is 100% yours. You have to take ownership. You have to take extreme ownership over everything that is in your life. So for this graduating class of seniors, for the younger wrestlers that still have another year or another handful of years of wrestlings, and to the siblings, the parents, the grandparents, the aunts and uncles, to the teachers and the coaches, I ask you all, what do you choose to do? Life is in front of us all. Victory is in front of us all. I hope you all choose to join me with going to war with complacency. I hope that you choose to put in the work, to take ownership over your life, and to decide to never settle. Thank you, and God bless. So this was a speech that I gave to Aidan's wrestling team at the end of their year banquet about a week ago. And I just wanted to share it and open up a few talking points. But before we go back and address a few of those points, what's up, Lucas?
What's going on, Pumpkin?
Congrats on the new baby.
Thank you very much.
Let's go.
Yeah, 8.5 pounds and 22.2 inches long, wow. Which would be tall, but he can't stand up yet. He's not very good at a lot of things at this point in his life, but we're not really demanding much out of him.
Well,
so it's been a good balance for he and I.
Yeah, you guys are seeing eye to eye on a lot of things.
We're pretty good on a lot of stuff, yeah.
That's cool.
But way, way, way different experience than last time, right? So Scotty had no NICU time. We were able to bring him home. Kirsten had him on a Monday, and Wednesday night we had him at home. So it was
that's crazy,
dude. It was wild, and he's eating good, sleeping good, and she's already got him in all of the cute things. And yeah, we got some great pictures of Levi, our oldest, holding him.
Dude, I love those pictures.
He really, like, everything is. Mom and Dad are now like, no, we're not even entering into the equation. Like, before we go and like say night night, we got to go say night night to Scotty.
Of course.
Okay. Yeah. You want to give Mom a kiss? No.
No.
Yeah. Like, literally, Mom was like, okay, can I have a kiss today? No. He wants the baby has to have the kiss first. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's been good to see that. Yeah. There's no like jealousy or anything there, which I was warned by a lot of people that, like, sometimes, especially as old as your kid is, he'll get jealous from the attention or whatever. Yeah. But he had kind of started to make that sway more towards wanting to hang out with Dad the last couple of weeks beforehand. So yeah, it's been good. It's a lot of fun, man. It's awesome. Bizarre having two children.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Things change real quick.
I'm telling you, dude. And like, you guys had no lead up time. Y'all went from 1 to 3.
Yep.
Like, instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've heard after 3, it just doesn't matter how many kids you have. We got a cousin who's got 7. And she was like, yeah, after the third one, doesn't matter. Like, it's all pretty much the same.
It's all the same.
Yeah. Once you're outnumbered, like, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just.
That's funny.
White flag it and hope everybody comes home for dinner.
Survival of the fittest.
Yeah, that's it, dude.
Cool. Man, dude. New baby. That's always fun.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, so I'm having a new baby, and you guys are graduating your first one. So this was a speech you gave at Aidan's senior wrestling banquet.
Yep. Yeah.
So what's before we dive into this stuff here, like,
it's crazy.
Big responsibility to be the dad giving the speech at the senior wrestling banquet. Like, what was that like prepping for this?
Yeah, I was a little more nervous about this.
Really?
Yeah, just because it's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're talking to high schoolers that are graduating, and then you're talking to all of the team,
Right.
all their parents, their siblings, their aunts and uncles, grandparents, teachers, coaches were all there. So, and it was, he wanted it to be, a speech to the wrestlers, especially the kids wrestling or graduating, but also be something that could be applicable to everybody there. And I
Right.
was like, okay, and I was just, I've never given a speech like that. I don't do that. We give our leadership workshops, which,
Right.
This was definitely a first time, but it was cool because, I was able to tie in legitimate lessons that I learned from growing up from wrestling, and then tie them into leadership as well, a little bit of that aspect. And it was cool. I had a lot of parents come up afterwards and grandparents, and, were like, that was awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you. A lot of the students and the wrestlers as well. And, it was cool to be able to do that, because there was a few, kids that like took it to heart. That were very genuine, because no one had to come up to me afterwards and say thank you. Like nobody had to, but there was a few wrestlers that said, "Hey, I really appreciate what you said. I'm going to take that to heart." Like one of the kids, he's going in the Marine Corps. He's like, I'm going to take all that into what I'm going to go do.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it was, it was a little bit of stress
Yeah,
leading
no
up
doubt.
to it, but it was cool. And the biggest thing, I was just like, I didn't want to like get emotional because
Right.
so I had to like mention Aidan and then just go straight into it, because
Yeah.
if I was to try to a part of me wanted to talk about Aidan and what he's been able to do and the other kids as well, but I just, man, if I opened that door of Aidan and the other kids that I know on the team, like I definitely would have been like pretty
Just a
emotional.
mess.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. But it was good. Aidan also got an award, which was
Congratulations,
cool. Yeah,
young Mr. Trimble.
I need to look it up.
So while you're looking that up, one of the things I've been mulling over, right, is when you give a talk that's like outside of your comfort zone. That I'll personalize it. When I give a talk that's like outside of my comfort zone, right? If I'm doing something at a banquet, or if I'm doing something for like our police department or something like that, where I'm not delivering a sermon,
Yeah.
I feel a little like out of place. So I do get a little nervous doing it, but I want to fall back into some of the things that I like typically do. Did you have like any urge to tell people like, all right, so we just talked about how you need to be, here we go, to be a true champion, a good teammate, and a good student. Now, now you're with your fire teams at your banquet tables. You guys sit around. Was there like an urge to do some of that stuff?
No, there was definitely the urge for me to open up like a lot of these talking points and go deep, because I'm like, oh, well, I need to elaborate on this, and man, I really should elaborate on this, and I should, oh man, there's a lot of that. But just, I knew I had to stick to what I, put together.
Yeah,
and,
what you set out to do.
Yeah, and it was funny because Aidan's like, hey, he's like, how long did it take you to do that? Or did you do it like today or whatever? And I'd been thinking about this, but I typed this out before we went there.
Oh wow!
Because I had I had the framework in my brain.
Yeah. And
so it took me, I want to say it was probably about 30, 45 minutes to type this up. I typed it up like right before we headed there.
Yeah.
So, should I have prepared more? Probably. But also, I also knew that I ran the risk of it being way longer than it needed to be. But then again, I could have done that and refined it down and chopped it up. But I don't know. Like, I'd never done this before.
It was good.
I speak for a living, so it wasn't like I was too worried about not being able to talk in front of people. Does that?
Yeah, like 7 years ago, this might have been a challenge for you. But
but 7 years ago, this would have been a major issue.
Yeah, but now you do this, at least 4 days a week?
I would say average, yeah.
Yeah.
So talking in front of people. So the talking in front of people wasn't an issue. I mean, and then obviously now we're doing this podcast. It was, how do I frame it the right way?
Right.
Because I've never been asked to do this before.
Yeah.
So anyways, I enjoyed it. It was, if somebody took something from it, then it's worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
I had a few parents were like, that was for me. Thank you.
That's cool.
Oh, you're welcome. So
what's our award that we won?
yeah. So it was cool because when they were talking about it and describing the people that got this award, I was like, it's got to be Aidan. It's got to be. But then I was like, oh no, because there's a lot of other kids on the team that could definitely do this.
And you do have the dad bias.
Oh, for sure. It was the Bobcat Team Award.
Okay.
So it was the person that exemplifies what it means to be a good teammate and all aspects of, it wasn't based off of wins or pins, but it was your attitude, like, your work ethic, your attitude. Were you a good teammate? Were you a good human? Were you a good student? You know what I mean? Do you represent the team properly? And that was cool. So, and what was cool, Aidan was super proud, is one of his coaches, Coach Dustin Basham, Coach B.
Was he at the mustard with us?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I think I was sitting next to him.
Yep, you were.
Yeah.
Coach O and Coach B. He won it back in let's see, I can't see what year this is. 2013, 2014 time frame.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so 10 years ago he won it. And then,
that's pretty neat.
And Aidan really looks up to Coach B because him and Coach O and Coach B have been incredible influences in Aidan's life.
Yeah.
Just they're good humans. And, so Aidan and Maddie, she won it as well. So
that's cool.
It was cool. Yeah, it was like super proud. One of the moms came up to Amanda afterwards and told her, she was like, if they didn't call Aidan's name for that award, I was going to go have a conversation with him because that is Aidan. And so
that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, it was really cool. So
yeah, so I can understand why you would want to elaborate on some of this, and I also understand why some of these parents felt like this was for them, right? Because in I don't remember if it was in 030, 029, where we were talking about Psalm 91, right? And you just kind of like reframed it and used my name in it. That if you were to take out like wrestler in some of these bits, I was thinking about like this is a perfect application. Like I kind of want to rewrite this,
bro. Let's do it. And that's
where like the small details always mattered. And as a sniper, I can promise you the small details always mattered. So good men do not cheat. Good women do not cut corners. Like good dads do not lie. Good moms do not coast through the day throughout practice or throughout their life. Like so much of that stuff that if you just replace the word wrestler with leader or with mom or with dad or
I
man
was
or
thinking
woman,
about
whatever,
this,
it's
like
so good, dude.
How I would use this framework moving forward. Like if I get asked to speak, I think I would use this framework. Now, obviously, I'd want to tweak it and
for sure
get some advice from Jocko and Leif and you and Dave and Jamie.
But primarily from me.
100%. Of just like making like little tweaks towards it's more universal. I think honestly, what you said, I agree. You could just take out wrestlers and you could say, youth pastors do not cheat. Youth pastors do not cut corners. Youth pastors do not lie. Youth pastors do not coast throughout the day, throughout events or throughout their life. Youth pastors do not quit. Youth pastors do not take the easy way out. They're willing to have the hard conversations with the kids that they're leading because youth pastors always find a way to win. And youth pastors fight for the souls of their kids. You know what I mean? Like I'm just thinking like
so good, dude.
You could apply this to a lot of things. And that's what's cool about what we do at Echelon Front. It's all universal.
Yeah.
And it's all biblical.
Right.
It's, all these things that we're talking about, like read the Bible. You'll find these things in there.
Yeah.
Read 2 Samuel 22. Like, you want to get fired up about war and life? I used to read that before we go out on missions to the guys.
That's so awesome.
And I want us to do an episode on that one day in the future. But
I'm down. David's song of praise, right? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so we'll see. I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot that we can go. Let's see. I don't know. What do you want to talk about, man?
Well, I want to stick with this because there's so much.
Sorry, hold on.
Yeah. What about this? Do I want to talk about?
Well,
what? There's some other things. Right.
This is fun. I want Aidan to come on the podcast soon because he's graduating in 4 weeks.
What are we gonna have to do to get Aidan on the podcast? What kind of instant? Are you gonna have to buy him an Xbox?
No, he already has an Xbox.
You're gonna have to buy him a fork knife,
bro. Aidan, he's just a chill kid, man. And he doesn't he's like, oh well, Like, cause Amanda and I talked to him about it. He's like, dude, so this is funny. I love Aidan so much. And Amanda and I, when he said this, we just looked at each other like teenage brain.
Yeah. Oh,
so,
for
you know,
sure.
I made the birthday post for his 18th birthday.
Yeah.
And everyone's like making all their comments. He doesn't respond to one. Doesn't like one, not one thing. And Amanda and I were like, hey, bud, like, to be polite, you should probably respond to people. And he goes, I'm more of a reader than I am a responder. Bro.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, I just look at Amanda and she looks at me like, and then she looks back at him and was just like, son, like, you right, like, you sound like a jerk.
A punk. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yep.
a jerk, you know? And he was like,
Yep.
but, you know, in his mind,
It totally made sense. My mom used to refer to that as testosterone poisoning whenever we were when we were in high school, because like you would have somebody that, like did something nice and you're like, oh, cool. Like they're like, well, you know, you should say thank you. And I'm like, well, I said it was cool. Like I thought what they did was pretty cool. So that was it.
yeah.
Nope. I remember one time this girl told my brother that he loved, or that she loved him, and he was like, I really like you.
I mean, at least your brother was
like-
being honest.
Yeah, he wasn't like, what do you? You know, he was probably early 20s. He's like, we're like, well, do you? And he's like, I mean, maybe. Like, do you know? No. Like, how much do you like? He's probably not a lot.
Dude, I love your brother. He is like Aidan.
This is so
I mean,
good.
this is like, these are the conversations that I have with
Yeah, yeah.
Aidan where I'm like, oh, I need to coach him more. You know,
Yeah.
we need to, and that's the thing is like with our kids, like, yeah, we should be coaching and teaching them how to have conversations and, you know, how to do these things. I was talking with one of my buddies. I'm not going to name his name, but he's so frustrated because like, and his daughter is beautiful
Yeah.
and she has never been asked to prom.
Ooh.
And I guarantee you it's because the boys are intimidated by her.
Yeah, no joke.
And I guarantee you it's because most of these boys aren't being coached by their fathers and mothers how to be men, how to treat women with respect. And instead of them asking them to prom, they're sending messages to her and her friends about, hey, do you guys just want to come to the after party and just hook up later? And she's like, no.
Freaking idiots.
Bro, no, like I'm not, I was reading this and I was like, if I found out that Aidan, which I know would never be an issue, but if I
Right.
found out my son was sending messages to females saying like, hey, you're going to come to the after party so we can have sex, and not like, I would, dude,
It would be a bad day for your son.
it would be a bad year.
What are you going to do inevitably when the girls get those messages? Because it's going to happen.
Well, my daughters will know how to respond to that properly, just like this guy's daughter did.
Yeah.
Like this guy, again, I don't want to say his name. I'm not going to give any information about him to respect his daughter's privacy.
Sure.
He is a great human.
Yeah.
And he has done a phenomenal job raising an awesome young woman.
Yeah.
And she is successful. And he's a great dad, man.
Yeah.
He's a great dad. She, I'm assuming, handled it the right way, but he is getting frustrated because he's like, man, you know, this is what broke my heart because, and our kids have never met. I'm like, bro, do we need to do does Aidan need to meet your daughter? Like, this is what I'm thinking in my brain.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he goes, this is what his daughter said to him. He goes, actually, I'm going to pull it up because I want to read it. You know how I am. I don't like to phrase things the wrong way.
Would you want Aidan to get a little bit more, I'm more of a reader, not a responder, out of his brain
100%.
before he met this girl?
Maybe. Or maybe
Yeah.
it's the perfect.
Maybe so.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's hard to say in these kinds of situations.
I'm just so tired of the BS with these boys that are my daughter's age. I can't freaking take it anymore, bro. My daughter literally said this sentence to me and it hurt my heart. She said, Daddy, I really just don't understand why a boy won't invite me to go eat some Whataburger with them and then go sit by a lake and just watch the sun go down.
It's because they don't know how.
That's my
You're
point.
Right. You're right.
That's why we as parents are failing our kids.
Yeah.
Like Aiden's a great kid, but then I look at the fact of like, hey, I'm more of a reader, not a responder. I'm like, oh, I'm failing him as a parent of saying, no, okay, yes, that's right, son. However, you should be responding to people because it's polite.
Yeah.
That's a failure of me. That's 100% on me. That's not on anybody else. He hasn't been taught that. Guess who's supposed to be teaching him these things?
Amanda.
Oh, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, no doubt. But this is the kind of thing that, and I'm sure Ethan handles the same thing, that we deal with in youth ministry all the time.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
These boys are watching too much rhymes with corn, because I know we have kids that watch this. Their expectations are outrage. Actually, we've said it before.
Yeah. They're watching too much porn.
They're watching too much porn.
And average age of exposure now for a male, 8.
So
it's not like the kids don't know it.
Their expectations are outrageous, and they have no idea how to talk to girls. I'm freaking done with it. Done with being nice to these clowns. I'm going to start calling these out. Anyways, he went down a rabbit hole of anger, which I understand his frustration.
Yeah, for sure.
He goes, I just don't understand how my daughter can be as beautiful as she is and have this is the most important thing, right? Such a kind-hearted soul and a solid, good person, but hasn't been asked by a single boy to prom or just to go hang out. This is a culture problem. This is a culture problem.
Yeah.
And I was just like, bro, I was like, you know what? And I talked about some stuff that Aiden's dealt with girls of like, he had some beautiful girls that were, pursuing him. And Aidan was, he wanted them to come to church with him. And not one of them would come to church with him.
Really?
Not one. And so I was like, hey, man, are you going to ask them to prom? He's like, no. And I was like, why? He's like, they wouldn't go to church with me. And, he's trying to get girls to come to church with him. And that's his moral standard. Like, no, if I'm going to hang out with a girl, if I'm going to date a girl, we need to be going to church together, which I think is incredible. So anyways, it's just unfortunate. My buddy, he's dealing with that with his daughter.
Right.
And, I don't know how we opened up that rabbit hole.
Well, it's when you're talking about like the skills that it takes to be a good,
particularly
like a good young man, right?
We opened, yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you look at the things that you talk about in this speech, particularly about being a good wrestler and like you don't quit corners, all those kinds of things, we've stopped teaching the next generation those things. We talked a little bit about this on the last episode, like how important, it was on a Q&A is when we talked about this, like how important rituals are. To like starting our day, but also instilling in the next generation, like the importance of doing things or doing hard things or like whatever those things are, right?
These things need to be taught.
Yeah. So there are a couple of things I would encourage our listeners to check out. Particularly, there's a new book that just came out by Professor Nancy Piercy. So she was a scholar in residence. She's a scholar in residence of apologetics at Houston Baptist University right now. But she studied under Francis Schaeffer in religious philosophy. She worked with Chuck Colson, who, if you don't know who he is, he passed away in 2020. So Chuck Colson was like one of the dudes in charge of like covering up Watergate. He was one of the top guys in Watergate. He goes to prison, becomes a believer while he's in prison. Awesome. And one of the things that he said convinced him, he was like, so there were 12 people involved in Watergate, right? And like we cracked. As soon as somebody like figured out that we were lying, he's like, we crumbled.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, but with the disciples, he's like, those 12 guys carried that to their death.
Because it was an undeniable truth.
Absolutely. He goes, so I was thoroughly convinced that there was something to the Christian faith because the 12 guys I was with in Watergate couldn't keep a secret for 6 months. And those guys died for it. Mm-hmm. He's like, so there's something to it.
They died brutal deaths.
Oh man.
I mean,
yeah, just vicious.
This wasn't
all except for John.
Okay.
Yeah, but the other
but this isn't like
11.
But think about that. I just think about that in context.
Oh yeah, beheadings.
Context.
Others were crucified.
Like being tortured.
Yeah.
None of these Watergate guys were being tortured.
No.
Not even close.
Uh-uh.
Like maybe sleep deprived.
They sat down in an office with guys in suits, and they were like, you know what? I'll probably just tell you everything.
Actually,
about this.
you're going to give me a hot dinner?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
so it's just just bizarre. So she did a lot of work with Chuck Colson and that stuff, but she's got a new book called The Toxic War on Masculinity. And there has been a study in the UK that's been going on since, I think since 2009. And there's several parts to it, but it's called The War on Boys. And the primary thing that they're looking at is the way that, in particular, that pornography has completely changed the interaction between men, like male to male, but also in the way that they look at women.
It's horrible,
is that like it's so much. There's two things that they're worried at. The first is the amount of effort that it takes in order to get a girl to like go out with you and those kind of things. So that's all very intimidating. But that's always been intimidating.
Yeah, I was always intimidated by that.
So, but because it's so awkward to go ask a girl out, especially when you're young, dude, it is nerve-wracking.
Mm-hmm.
They're so worried about being labeled a creep because as soon as they get that creep label, as soon as a girl says like, oh, so-and-so's a creep, right? Edgerrin's a creep. And then she puts it out on social media, like that's it for the rest of his life. It's there. And anything she says or anything her friends say or any of that stuff, like he can't erase. He can't get it off of his Facebook page or his Facebook wall. It's always going to be on his Instagram. There's going to be those videos about him on TikTok or wherever. And anytime he goes to apply for a job, they're going to find it as soon as they do the Google searches of, you know, this kid he was a creep. He was weird, blah, blah, blah. And there are people out there that are obviously like bad in those regards, but there's a lot of it that is just like, you know what? When you go and you talk to a pretty girl, it's freaking intimidating and you stumble over your words and you get weird about it. So they've just decided not to do it because it's easier to hook up and because sex has become transactional, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's sad.
It's terribly sad.
It's really sad.
But if we get back to this kind of stuff, like what you're talking about in here, especially as men, and that's the thing, like they don't even have to be your kids.
No.
Right? Like the amount of single parents that are out there, both men and women, right? Like if your daughter is hanging out with a group of guys, like if there's mixed company and there's guys that are there, like it's part of your responsibility as a man to help to mentor the people that are now in your space.
Yeah, 100%. Like
Right?
we do the kids at the gym at Double Five.
Yep.
You know, that's our
Yeah.
that's our extended family. And you know, Cora competed this last weekend, and the amount of people that just showed up, because I didn't even invite my parents to come watch her because she was nervous. She didn't want anybody to come see, so I didn't invite anybody. But the amount of people that showed up from our gym and friends and family members, like that didn't even tell us they were coming. All of a sudden, I'm like, "What are you guys doing here?" They're like, "We're here to watch Cora." I'm like, "Oh, that's like,
Dang.
like Amanda's like best friend, Janet, and her husband Kevin, like they came over in the morning to braid, so that their daughter could braid Cora's hair." And I thought, they're in the middle of moving. And I'm like, okay, cool. They're just coming by early to braid and say hi. And they're like, oh, no, we're coming to watch. I'm like, oh,
Sweet.
okay. Josh and his family came to watch, right? Now, I know you would have come, but it's like you just had a baby, so you couldn't.
So we were actually trying to figure that out because Kirsten and I were talking about it. I was like, Cora's competing. She was like, yeah, that's kind of during one of the feeding times. She goes, but...
The fact that you guys even thought.
Oh, dude, we had a legit like a 30-minute conversation about it because my niece had her third birthday party. It was actually the first birthday party she's ever been able to have.
Oh, cool.
Was in the afternoon.
Good for her.
And she was like, okay, so if you went to this, you could take Levi. She's like, and then it would just be me and the baby, and her grandparents have been staying with us since the baby was born. She's like, that would actually kind of be relaxing. She's like, but it would adjust his nap time. And so we were trying to figure out to see if we could do both. And then we chose the birthday party because it was closer. Yeah. But yeah, we were trying to figure it out.
Isaac and his son came.
Yep. He coached a couple of people, I think.
Yeah, from his gym too. Yeah, it was cool. And I know Steve and Amanda wanted to, and they had other commitments. But it was, the only reason I'm saying that is that's what, excuse me. That's what we have at Double Five. And that's what we also have at our church. The amount of messages I've also gotten from the different youth leaders at Milestone saying, hey, when is Cora's next competition? Is Nola going to be competing? We want to come watch the kids. And, I know that's what your church does for the youth. Our church does that with the youth. They're very active. I remember a few years ago, one of Aidan's youth leaders came to watch him wrestle, his wrestling matches. And I was just completely thrown off by that. I shouldn't have been, but I was, because I just was like, "What's up, Ryan?" I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm here to watch Aidan wrestle." I'm like, you came just to watch Aidan wrestle?" He goes, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Wow, that's incredible."
That's pretty cool, man.
So I know I gave you an answer, but to answer deeper into like, hey, how am I going to react when my daughters get those messages? If they get those types of messages, one, I'm not worried that my daughters won't know how to react to it and handle it, because we're already having those conversations now.
That's crazy, dude.
It's sad, but it's also necessary, because I don't want my kids to be caught off guard, and then maybe they realize, okay, this is something wrong, and I don't want to err on the side of my kids not feeling comfortable to come ask us. And then what do? They go to a friend, or they go to the internet. And I don't want that to happen. So I would rather take preemptive ownership and have those hard conversations now, like Amanda and I have been, so that they're prepared. And then also, if my daughters, if that happens, they'll handle it. And then when they bring it to me, I'll evaluate at what point do I need to get involved. And if you think I have a hard time going and having a conversation with another parent, hold my Jocko go. Like, I have no problem. Like, I have no.
We need to create that as a hashtag. Like, we
hold my Jocko go.
Yeah,
hold my discipline go.
Yep, that needs to be it, because there's obviously the hold my beer, but there's also, like, for little kids, they've got one that says hold my juice box.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Hold my go.
Hold my go.
Yep.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
I think it needs to be like Jocko go or discipline go, so that there's the direct tie to Jocko fuel.
Yeah. All right.
Anyways,
I'm in. We'll make it.
No, I'll go talk to a parent.
Put in the comments, what do you want our hashtag to be?
Let us know in the YouTube comments. YouTubes. I think, I would go talk with the parent and say, hey, here's what your son sent my daughter. Do you find this to be acceptable? And I'm going to give that parent the benefit of the doubt, 100%, because I'm going to assume that there's zero parents out there encouraging their teenage boys to speak to other females like that.
Yeah, it's a heavy assumption, but that's the safe one.
Well,
in this
that's the safe
scenario.
one that keeps me sane and not wanting to do violence, which I know is not the answer. I know that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, and that's the other thing, is I'm not going to let anger, which stems from the spirit of fear, right, open a door and allow the devil to have any foothold in my life. Like, losing my temper, those days, I'm trying to keep them at bay.
Yeah.
Because nothing good comes of that. And what does that show my kids? That violence is the first option? No, it's not. It's not the option.
Yeah, that's not what you want.
It is a option. Like, you cause harm to my family. Like, yes, but the likelihood of that happening is very low.
Right.
It's very, very low. And that's the other thing, is like, I still have to have trust in our legal systems and other parents doing the right things.
Yeah.
I'm always going to default to those things first. And then if there comes a time that those things all fail, then I'm going to have to reevaluate some things. But I don't.
There's a lot of steps to get there, though.
Yeah, there's so many steps there.
Yeah.
Oh, so now I know what opened up this rabbit hole. As I said, Aidan. It's funny because I said your teammate, Aidan Trimble, is my son. Well, beforehand, I said my name is JP Dinnell. Well, there's two last names that don't match. And the fact that I call Aidan my son throws people off.
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying stepson.
Right.
He's my son. That is my boy, right?
It confused me a little bit at first.
Well, yeah. It does, because people are used to those titles that society put on, and it's like, oh, no, that's not his son, that's his stepson.
Right.
That's bullshit.
I think it's good.
I kept a rating.
That was good.
Oh man, that was the closest I've ever come, because that actually makes me frustrated.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
This is the first I'm hearing about this frustration.
I'm glad I stopped that.
Wow. That was good. Is there a hole in your tongue? Because that was
no, I don't know what
that was
I did.
a hard stop. Well done.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's my boy.
But I agree. It also is not cool.
Yeah. Anyways, cool. As we go through this, one of the things I wanted to talk about is I want to reiterate my thankfulness to all the branches of the military. As I said, all of those units are incredible. And I have worked with every branch of the military. And every single unit that I've ever worked with were absolutely incredible. So I always want to take a moment to thank all the soldiers, all the sailors, all the Marines, all the airmen and women that I've been able to work with. Just we have an incredible military. And the Army, they're awesome. Marine Corps, they're awesome. The Air Force, they're awesome. Coast Guard, they're awesome. Navy, they're awesome. Like, we have the greatest military ever.
Agreed.
And I've worked with incredible humans from every branch. I've had incredible relationships with every branch. I still have incredible relationships with every branch of the military. And I just, again, want to thank all those service members for everything that they've done and everything that they do. And obviously our first responders, our police, our firefighters, our border patrol, they're incredible human beings. The everyday mindset going through the training of, I get to do this. I know we've talked about that a lot, but like you said, like, just thinking about that, if, as a pastor, thinking about, man, I get to do this. And you exemplify that great, because
I appreciate
your
that,
attitude towards what you get to do. No, I get to see a little bit more now. I get to see behind the curtain, as they say.
Yeah.
And, it's a lot of, the youth leaders from Milestone that you've met, Pastor Ethan and these other guys that I talk about. You've met Titus at Jiu-Jitsu, and Pastor Ethan has also come to Jiu-Jitsu, and Brian Culver, he's not a youth leader at our church, but he leads. He helps with our youth a lot. Jacob and Tyron and Ryan and Drew and all these guys, right? They're just all incredible leaders, and they have that mindset of, like, I get to do this. Like, and I love watching the mindset of church leaders. Most of them, not all of them, which we know we have flawed humans in every thing. But the majority of the ones that I've seen and get to interact with, they all keep the I get to do this mindset. And I think that's pretty cool. And just a reminder, fatigue makes cowards of us all. Because when you're tired and you're exhausted and you're wore out, you tend to make bad decisions. So,
the first time I heard that quote was from Jimmy Johnson. They were doing like a behind the NFL thing on.
Who's Jimmy Johnson?
He was the coach of the Dallas Cowboys in the early 90s.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that name sounds familiar.
Yeah. So he took the team over and was like pushing the guys, and the guys were complaining because like they didn't have to work this hard in college, and they didn't understand why this was. They're like, we're good enough. And he's like, no, I'm going to get you to the point where you're tired and you're going to have to push through it. And they're like, why? He goes, because fatigue makes cowards out of us all. Ooh. And and he's like yelling at the team because they're complaining that they're too tired to do another practice. And then he went on this a bunch of
you're in the NFL.
Yeah, but a bunch of just massive dudes where he's like, why? But he was much more colorful. He was like, but why why you don't want to do this is not because you can't. It's not because you're tired, but it's because nobody weaned you from your mama early enough, and because your chicken poops and all this kind of stuff. Wow. And then went into that. I was like, holy smokes, man! Yeah. But it was effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I just love that. Good, and that's a good coach, right?
One of my
that's
favorite
a great
quotes
coach.
Of all time.
That's a great leader.
Yeah.
And I think about good leaders, like we were just talking about, like this issue that we're having with youth, men and women equally, right? There's women that are, the amount of teenage girls that have issues with porn is crazy to me.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, and our leaders at our church dealing with that all the time, and. That comes down to us, as parents, we need to be leading in our households. So we need to be having these hard conversations. And, I go back to what I said in here. At a young age, my parents got myself and my siblings into wrestling because they wanted us to be physically and mentally tough. They wanted us to understand what hard work looks like and what hard work feels like. They wanted us to understand what winning feels like and what defeat feels like. In life, you are going to win and you are going to lose. How we conduct ourselves in times of victory and defeat actually defines who we are as humans. So I'm just so thankful that my parents, they've always instilled that into us.
Yeah.
And they didn't just talk about it, they did it, right? And it's the same thing with my in-laws. I mean, you've met my in-laws. They're awesome.
They are.
They're also very hardworking humans.
I got to go on a shopping trip with Jeff in a Buc-ee's. It
Oh,
was nice.
yes, that's awesome. But like when I left to come here, my father-in-law has been out in our backyard all day long working, right? I had to do work on the computer all day. He's out there. It makes me feel uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, it's like, I mean, he's happy to be out there, and he's thankful, and he's doing that, and it's just, man. So yeah, my parents, they want, and that's, we have to be active with our kids. We have to be hands-on. That's why part of the reason this year I'm throttling back from the amount of travel that I do is so that I can be more hands-on with my family. I have 2 to 3 years left of influence with Aidan. He's 18. He graduates in 4 weeks. Like,
Good grief.
that's it, man. And I have to be intentional with that time. Because, dude, I'm telling you, man, and I know you know this, but we're going to be having this conversation, and it's going to feel like a couple years, but we're going to be having a conversation, and you're going to be talking, and we're going to be talking about your boys in high school, and it's going to come like that. Aidan was 4 years old when I met him.
Dang.
4 years old.
Good grief.
It goes by so fast. And that time is fleeting, man. We have to go out there and do the work. Like I said here, we have to go out there and do the work. Because, believing in stuff is great, but there actually has to be work. And that's what wrestlers do. The wrestlers put in the work. Last night I did some no-gi jiu-jitsu because we now have that on our schedule at Double Five.
Oh, yeah. When is the no-gi?
Monday and Wednesday nights, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon.
Okay.
So last night I did the no-gi, and I'm 41, and these other guys in the class, there's my buddy Chase. Him and I were training partners. He's about my age. He might be younger than me. I'm not sure. Him and his wife are awesome. They, and his wife was awesome. Angelina, with helping get Cora ready for this competition, training with her, and she does a really good job training with Cora and Nola. And when Cora made the commitment to compete, it was doing the adults classes. Her and Robin and a few of the other females were like very awesome with working with Cora and letting her work and helping out. But her husband Chase and I were no-gi partners last night. We're like the 2 old guys over there. It's like the guys are like in their 20s, bro, like early 20s. And it was just funny, like just thinking about just, how much different my body reacts and is, 41 versus 20, 21, 22, 23. But it was good to get that hard training in last night, just feeling that work, like just putting in that work and just, I don't know, man. I'm so thankful that I enjoy that feeling.
Yeah.
Because my parents instilled that into us, man.
Yep. How
you conduct yourself in life, that's what matters. I want you to ask yourself, are you being a true champion in life? What does that mean to you?
Okay, so I've got that. That is actually one of the things that I have written down here.
Of course.
How
what
you
a coincidence.
in life. Yeah,
what
right?
a quinky dink.
So when I think of that, it makes me think of the greatest command, right? To love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. And in Deuteronomy, it talks about that. And it's one of the last things that Moses says to the Israelites before he passes away and they take the promised land. But he says to love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. And Jesus adds all your mind whenever he's talking to the Pharisees and the scribes and the Sadducees and the religious leaders whenever they ask him what the greatest command is. And I've always thought that was an interesting thing that Jesus adds all your mind, because it is the one area, like we talked about, like point to your mind, right? A couple of weeks ago when we were talking about that, right? Like, yeah, how do you do it? And it's that one thing that, like, no matter what is happening, that, like, if I'm working, my mind can wander. If I'm listening to something, if I'm reading something, my mind can wander. If I start to pray, my mind can wander and take me like completely off course of all of what I'm doing. And both of us with, let's say we're a tad bit neurodivergent, right? That, like Kirsten asked me to go do something, and I came into, she needed me to get like water for her from the kitchen, right? Because she was feeding the baby. So I come into the kitchen and then I'm loading stuff. It's like 10:30 at night. So I'm like loading stuff for the shorts that we're going to do on the show. And so I come in, but my laptop's open. It's on the kitchen table. So I sit down, I start doing stuff on the laptop. And before I know it, like a couple of minutes has gone by and I was like, I'm not supposed to be doing this. Right. But like that thing, it caught my eye. And so now it got all of my mind's attention. But like how we conduct ourselves is more than just the actions that we make. It's more than just the things that we say. When we're talking about conducting ourselves and how that matters, it has every bit to do with like what are we allowing into our lives? What are the things that we're bringing in? What are the things that we're reading? What are the things that we're listening to? Who are the people that are around us that are influencing us? Because we'll start to imitate those things. Mm-hmm. And as soon as we start to imitate those things, it completely changes the way that we live our lives. But the converse of that is that if we conduct ourselves in manners that are worthy of, like Paul says, conduct yourself in a manner that's worthy of the gospel. If we're conducting ourselves in a manner that's worthy of the gospel, if we are, like we talked about, that being lazy dishonors all the people who believed in you, right? So if we're conducting ourselves well, then we do the converse of that. Then we're honoring all of the people that believe in us, that have propped us up and who have encouraged us and who are investing in our lives in order to make things happen for us, mm-hmm. and in order to help to put us in those positions. That I think one of the biggest things about like conducting ourselves well is that we become something that other people can look up to and gives them hope. Mm. And the last thing that it kind of reminds me of is that Paul talks about imitate me as I imitate Christ. Oh. And there's a meme of this that's like been created that's absolutely hilarious. And it is, it's this beautifully like hand-drawn sketch of a lion that looks like it could almost like leap off the page. It looks perfect. And then there's another one like that is Christ, and then Paul is Mufasa from The Lion King, right? So like here it is. So this is Paul imitating Christ, and then it's me, and it's like a stick figure of a lion with like a shaggy mane. It's like me imitating Paul as he imitates Christ, right? And I think about that, but the thing is if somebody were to look at that, even though it obviously like falls short of what we would feel like the mark is, mm-hmm. they would still be able to recognize, like you can with a kid's drawing, like, oh, that's a lion. Hmm. And one day it's going to look a lot more like a lion as you develop your skills and you do all of those things when you put in the time and the effort and you focus on it, than it does today. And that's what we should be doing in all areas of our lives, that we should be conducting ourselves well in everything, because it will give people hope, no matter what their situation is, that they can do the same thing.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's really good. I like that a lot. That's a really good thing to keep in the back of your mind, right? And it goes to what we've said many times, and what I said earlier is like, you can always control your mindset.
Yeah.
Like you can always control your thoughts, your attitude, your work ethic, your integrity, your discipline. Those are all controlled by you.
Yeah.
And if we're giving God all of our mind, that means that we're surrendering all those other things. We surrender, and there's times where like, I just, like you said, like the tension issues at times where part of my prayers is like, Lord, can you help me stay focused? And I know he made me the way that I am, like beautifully designed, like right. in his image, and I am the way that I'm supposed to be. And I don't try to be anyone that I'm not anymore. Like I think I've done a pretty good job over the years of just being transparent of who I am and not trying to be like anybody else. And I'm okay with admitting my flaws and shortcomings. Like I don't, like that stuff doesn't bother me, but I will pray at times like, hey, I just need some help focusing. Like I could really use a little extra, like a little bit of more discipline, from you, and asking those things, and maybe so much it's not like the ability to focus, but okay, show me some things that I can be doing that are going to be beneficial to me doing these things. And sometimes I just wonder, it's like God's showing me like, hey man, you got too much on your plate. You've actually exceeded your capabilities.
Yep. Time to decentralize some command, baby.
Yeah. Or let some things go.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a whole other subject and conversation for another time. But, you know, just being able to like surrender those things is, man, it is liberating.
Yeah.
To truly have alignment with your wife and being like, not worried.
Yeah.
Not worried.
It's like, it gives so much confidence and throws like so much swagger back in everything that you do. And having that confidence in your spouse, having that confidence in the people that you're around makes you more attractive to them because you're more of what y'all were whenever like the Lord was bringing you together.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it's friendships or relationships or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. I got a question for you. You said you were never afraid, right?
Yeah.
And we've also talked about how nerves are a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So what's the balance between like having nerves and not being afraid? How do you find that? Because that I think is a dichotomy for a lot of people.
I was never
like,
afraid.
try to figure those
I was
things
never
out.
fearful.
Yeah.
Being nervous, being on edge is a good thing. That's the way God designed our bodies to be ready.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and that's also not being complacent.
For sure.
So it's that
heightened sense.
Yeah, it's a heightened sense of you're ready to go. You want to perform. You want to do well. Being afraid is when you're unable to act. You're unable to take action and do things, and being fearful also keeps you from doing things. And you know, if you're afraid to compete in jiu-jitsu, then you just won't compete. Cora wasn't afraid. She was nervous with her competition, but she wasn't afraid. And I explained to her, I'm like, hey, I was like, are you afraid? She goes, well, no. I'm like, well, what's wrong? She's like, I'm just nervous. I'm like, about what? She goes, well, I don't want to get hurt. I'm like, you're not going to get hurt. She goes, okay. I'm just nervous. I don't want to lose. I'm like, nobody cares. And she looked at me and she's like, really? I'm like, nobody cares, Cora. Like, the only thing we care about is the amount of training that you've been doing, and you've put in a lot of hard work. Would you agree? She goes, yeah. I said, okay. So how you conduct yourself during the match and after the match is all that we care about. Like, I'm not worried. Like, now, do I want you to win? Yes, I want you to win. But a big picture in your life, like you winning or losing this jiu-jitsu match doesn't mean anything at all. It's how you act and how you conduct yourself. And that you could see that changed, like, right? And that's what Victoria told her also, who she'd been doing her privates with and her extra training with. And Victoria was like, hey, this isn't about your daddy. This isn't about your mommy. This isn't about Formiga or myself or Coach Mike. She's like, this isn't about anybody. This is about you. This is for you. Yeah. You go out there, you give it everything. That's all we care about. Like, don't go out there and quit, right? And that's what fear does. Fear causes people to quit. Fear causes people to quit. And so that's the difference. You can't be afraid to go out there and take chances. You can't. Now, not being reckless,
right?
But
it's a different thing.
Take some risk.
Yeah.
And so it was cool to see. It was cool to see that with Cora, and that was also just a mindset that we helped her kind of just wrap her mind around. And it was cool. I went, for a walk with Nola today. She wanted to go for a walk. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yep. Yeah. Let's go. And it was just a little 1 mile walk, but it was cool for us to just sit and talk during that time. And
she got you in a new skincare regimen?
No, not yet. probably her angle's coming soon, I'm sure. But we were, talking about competing, and I said, I think it would be really cool if you competed too, because, man, you do very good. I'm like, you're really strong, like Sissy, but you're lighter. And so you'll have that advantage over the other girls, like, because of the weight and your strength ratio. And I was like, your jiu-jitsu is really good. She's like, really? You think my jiu-jitsu is good? I'm like, yes, of course I do. I was like, your jiu-jitsu is really good. And she's like, okay. And then so we were talking. I was like, so you think you and Sissy want to train together for a competition? And she's like, I don't know. I'm like, what's worried? What are you worried about? She's like, well, I don't want to get hurt. I was like, well, you're not going to get hurt. The likelihood of that is low. I mean, now you could, but I don't think you're going to. But, she's nervous because she had just fractured some of her ribs recently in jiu-jitsu. And I said, you did that because you were trying to avoid falling on your friend so that you didn't hurt her.
Yeah.
In competition, you don't have to worry about that. You freaking drop.
You fall right on.
Hey, drop that elbow straight to the throat, and, you know, like, you'll be fine. And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah. And so now it was cool, like, seeing her confidence change and her wanting to be, you know, a little more involved in jiu-jitsu again, because what I failed to recognize as a parent is, like, got to get her back into it. And she had her time off from her injury. Get her back on the horse, as I say. You fall off the horse, what do? You get back on to get rid of that fear. And, you know, that's what, you know, Cora lost her matches on Saturday. And yesterday, she was back in class. And today, her and Nola are both going tonight. And they're going to train. And it's, you know, it's what we need to be doing. And it's our job as parents to coach and also to push our kids. Like, it's okay to push your kids in regards to expanding their threshold.
Yeah.
Expanding the belief that they have in themselves, like pushing them to work hard, to train hard. Like, these are good things. You should be pushing your kids like that. And to be honest, like, you should be pushing your friends to do the same. That's the way it should be.
100%.
Yeah.
So my last thing about this is I often get asked the question, I don't know if you do or not, but I often get asked the question as somebody who is, and I will use this term very, let's say, cautiously, that I am SEAL adjacent, only because, like, we sit at the same table, right?
Okay.
Not because I've had any kind of training. And as we
Yeah.
have gone into great depths, I have not run in my life what Rob Jones ran in a month, and likely will not. So
I was laughing when I was listening to that episode. Amanda was in the car with me, and she was dying laughing.
It's so true, though.
Yeah.
So, but that said, like, there's a question that I get asked is, like, do you think that you guys were so, or do I think, right? Do I believe that y'all were so superior because you had better gear or because of your training? And one of the things I
Superior
often,
to who?
to your enemy, right? Were you also superior to the enemy because of your training or because you had superior gear? And so one of the things I always go back to is looking at combat sports in particular, right? Mm-hmm. And I think about the story of a lot of us heard it growing up, of like the magic ballet slippers. This girl who's a terrible ballerina, her mom gets her new ballet slippers and like, hey, these are magical. All of a sudden she becomes like this wonderful ballerina. And it turns out the slippers were just like a new pair of the old ones that she got, right?
Yep.
That same kind of thing. With wrestling, like a new set of headgear doesn't make you a better wrestler, right? Mm. A new gi, like you get one of those new Origin Path gis, like it might give you a little bit more confidence when you step on the mat because you look dope, but you look pretty busted. But it may not actually improve, your jiu-jitsu at all when it comes to things in life in general, right? Like having a faster computer than somebody else can give you an edge. Having a better whatever can give you an edge on things. How important is it for us as individuals to invest in our training more than having that superior gear, the nice shiny new thing? How much more important is that of an investment or an investment in our future, or are they the same? So
if you have a $5,000 pistol and I have a $400 pistol, who's going to win in a gunfight between you and I?
Are these revolvers? Are we wearing dusters?
Nope. I'm talking, you have a nice, beautiful staccato competition pistol.
Okay.
Literally one of the top pistols out there.
Yeah, in the whole wide world.
Yeah, one of the best pistols I've ever shot in my life.
Right.
And I have a $400 Glock.
Uh-huh.
Not a bad gun, obviously, but it's a $400 Glock. And you and I are going to get in a gunfight against each other.
I lose 100% of the time.
But you have better gear.
Yep.
Okay.
I do. Now you have a really nice gun.
Now I have all your gear.
Yeah, now you got all my really nice gear.
What's the difference?
Training.
And? My mindset. I also believe that I cannot lose. I don't believe that I will ever lose in a gunfight.
Okay.
I don't believe. I literally
Yeah.
do not believe that I will ever lose in a gunfight because of my training.
Right.
Because I also believe in my abilities that God has given me because of my training.
Yeah.
And it's a training thing. So people need to invest into training. They need to put in the time. They need to be intentional. Like we were talking about with wrestlers. Wrestlers are intentional. World champions are intentional. And when you're talking about being a champion in life, like we talked about earlier, in all aspects, you take that frame universal, like you have to be intentional with the time. Like you have to put in the time of education, of repetition, and it's absolutely critical. So, yes, our gear gave us the advantage. Like, Jock was talking about on podcast episode 434, like we
So
had
good.
oh man, it was so good.
That was a lot of fun for me to listen to because that's the most. Because I've been going backwards, right?
Yeah.
Like from the ground up. That's the most he's talked about y'all's deployments. It was so cool to listen to.
Yeah, it was awesome. But one of the things he was talking about is when we would do nighttime operations, that was preferred because we had the advantage over the enemy because of night vision. However, in Ramadi, we couldn't do a lot of those because the Iraqi forces that we were going out with on missions, who were supposed to be taking lead on the missions so that we could do the turnover, they didn't have night vision. So we operated during the daytime. Well,
night vision does not work well during the day, from what I understand.
No, it doesn't. It does not. And actually, it does not do anything well for you. But these enemy fighters that we're going up against who didn't have uniforms, that didn't have rules of engagement, that could blend in with the populace and set up ambushes, guess what? If you look at it now, like they had the advantage. We're in their backyard.
Yeah.
But who was able to come out on top? We were, because of our training and because of the relationships that we were able to build.
Yeah.
It all comes down to belief and also putting in the work. You have to put in the work. That's universal for anything in life. You have to put in the work.
Will you take me to the gun range?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
100%.
Sweet.
Let's go.
All
okay.
Right. That's been a question that I've been irrationally nervous to ask you. I don't know why.
Well, I don't know why.
I don't know why.
That really irritates me that you were nervous to ask me to
I have
take
three
you to
words
gun
for you.
range.
I have 3 words for you about that. Get over it.
Get over it. Okay.
Okay, because now I've asked.
Okay.
But it is one of those things because I don't know. Like I said, it's just a weird thing where I'm like, you know what? I just don't want to be that guy,
All right.
Like
So before I close it out with some final thoughts, which we always have final thoughts, I just want to thank you all for support. Oh my gosh. Just want to thank you guys for the support you have given us by listening, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. If you want to follow us on social media, I am at JP Dinnell, 2 N's, 2 L's. Lucas is at Lucas Pinkard, Lucaspincard. Make sure you guys are also following us at Echelon Front. If you want to check out what we are doing, go to echelonfront.com. Follow us on social media. It's just at Echelon Front. I would love to see you guys at a future event. We have the muster coming up in Nashville. I think it is almost sold out. We also have the council this summer. The first one is sold out. We have a second one. They just had the battlefield review at Gettysburg. That was incredible. I was not able to be there. I saw the pictures, the videos, and got the debrief. We also have FTX 014 coming up in September, and we also have the muster back in the Dallas-Fort Worth area coming up. So go to echelonfront.com, check out all the events, or if you want one of our instructors to come work with you in your company, let us know. Also check out Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu. It's a ministry that I'm a part of with Isaac, Stephen, and Josh. On Instagram, we are at Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu _USA. Also a partner of a Texas beef company called Little Cattle Co.
Get that beef.
Yeah, dog. My best friend Stephen Little started the company back in 2017. My wife and I partnered with them in early 2023. The website is littlecattle.co. It's just our name, but as a website, again, that's littlecattle.co. We can deliver beef anywhere in the lower 48. We can also send boxes of beef to your customers, clients, family members, friends. Hey, young men, if you're trying to court a young lady, you should send her a box of beef. Send her some steaks. Anyways, we can do that for you. We have it's cool. One of my customers at Echelon Front, Lance, he has been very awesome in supporting us at Little Cattle Co. And he sends boxes of beef to his friends, family members,
Yeah.
customers. Just as if he's going to send a gift, he now sends a box of little calico beef.
That's
and
cool.
we'll include like a handwritten note on his behalf to them,
Okay.
which has been awesome. Also, SSLLC, one of the plumbing companies that we work with, they've been doing that a lot for around the holiday time frame, which has been great. So we can do that. If it's something you guys need, let us know. Also a partner with Josh Strasburger for a company called On the Path Printing. So if you guys want some printing needs, you can follow us on Instagram. It's On the Path Printing. Let us know what we can do to help you out. Also, check out Bruiser Arms. You can check us out on Instagram. It's at Bruiser Arms. It's a company that Leif, Jocko, and I are a part of, putting out some content very soon in regards to training and products. Looking forward to getting that up and fully running. As always, want to thank the support that Origin and Jocko Fuel has given myself, my family, and all the little different things I'm a part of. What Pete and Amanda Roberts has done is absolutely incredible. Legitimately bringing manufacturing back here to America, 100% American made jiu-jitsu gear and clothes, jeans, and different types of pants and boots and shirts and hoodies and belts and wallets, beanies, all the awesome stuff, rash guards and gis. Like I said, they're all 100% American made. Go to originusa.com. You can also go to jockofuel.com to check out the supplements and get those clean energy drinks. It's just, I don't know, man. It's just always cool when I see what Origin is doing as they're continuing to grow and expand. Like the 100% American made hunt line. They're just like, look, things that people say you can't do. Pete Roberts is like, cool, hold my Jocko, go. And then he does it. It's just awesome. Obviously, Jocko has that same mindset. And to see the partnership between Peter Roberts and Jocko has been absolutely incredible. So with that, I just want to thank you guys for your support. And as we close it out, I just want you to think about all the things that I said wrestlers do and do not do. How does that apply to you? And I truly believe every single one of those things is universal. It's about you being intentional and finding ways to tie those things into your life. I hope this episode has been a reminder to go out and do the work that is needed and to never settle. This has been the JP Dinnell Podcast, episode 31.